you have an aging adult in your family, in your life, you are probably familiar with some of the challenges that we are going to be talking about today and some of the conversations you could be having, should be having with that aging adult, which may well be your parent. My parents are both in their late 80s. And so a lot of this is like lived experience that resonates deeply for me. We're going to talk to one of Canada's foremost experts on this topic. Laura Tamblyn Watts is the CEO of CanAge, and she has a book out called Let's Talk About Aging Parents. So talk we will. Laura, thank you for joining us today.
Always a delight to be here.
You have lots and lots and lots of experience. And I think, like me, you have parents who are in this age category too. What motivated you to write this book?
I kept waiting for 25 years to be able, when people called me and said, I need help with downsizing, assisted living, my brother who is an addict but lives unsuccessfully in the basement, but also is the person that takes mom to her appointments, and I live in Calgary. I wanted to hand the book over and be like, here you go. Here's the information you need. Here's the tricks of the trade. Here's how to have a conversation. Here's not how to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Here's what doesn't work as well. And like, you know, and now we can talk about the big problems. But the reality of the circumstances, there wasn't one. And just think about it, like age and stage, right? I had 3 kids all in a row. I had a million books on pregnancy and first years and toddlers. Toddlers only last for about 2 years, and you can have hundreds of books on toddlers. Yeah. When we think about intergenerational aging, I mean, this is everything from 30 to 75 as our club sandwich generation. And there wasn't anything. And so I finally just wrote it.
Every family is different. Every relationship is different. Every health issue is different. Financial issues are different. But there is so much that is the same. What were the themes or the areas or the challenges that really resonate across almost everybody dealing with a circumstance in which their parents are aging?
The book is in 4 parts for a reason, right? So you could open it up. But really, I thought a lot about what those big pillar issues are. The first pillar issue is where you live and how you live, right? So this is, do my parents, you know, are they ready to age in place? They live in a 3-floor walk up. They're falling down the stairs. What do we do about that? Also, I live 4,000 kilometers away. What do I do? Right. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to go to long-term care. No, you don't go to long-term care. Long-term care is part of our healthcare system. What is assisted living? What is retirement home? And we use these different terminologies across this country and around the world. And so people lose their minds trying to figure it out. So number 1, how do you live? Where do you live? Number 2, what's the health issues? And look, we got to talk about dementia. We got to talk about things that are not dementia, cognitive impairment, right? We got to think about COPD, macular degeneration, those kinds of stuff that happen. And I don't need people to have done 4 years of medical science to understand, is it glaucoma? Is it a cataract? Is it wet or dry macula? I just need to open the darn book and learn enough information, right? The third piece is about relationships. Okay. Guilt. There's a whole chapter on guilt. What to do if your parent is toxic? Like, what if you hate your parents or whatever the person is? And then the last chapter is all the other stuff like driving.
Yeah. All the other stuff, and of which there is a lot of other stuff. Let's start with the house, because one of the ways you structure the book, which I love, is you've got considerations and you've got cost, and you get down even to the specifics of grab bars. Because we all know, of course, you need a grab bar in the bathroom beside the toilet, but there can be other real fall risks in the home. How do you price that out? This is a show about personal finance. How do you do the cost benefit here when mom wants to stay at the house? We're going to need to install an elevator.
Well, Bruce, you know I like talking about personal finance and how much things cost. So I did it the way that reviewers of restaurants do. It's a 1-star or a $1 sign, $2 signs, $3 signs. And I give you kind of a cost benefit analysis. So for instance, the most important thing you can do is not fall. That's it, right? Falling is both the most expensive and dangerous thing you can do. So there's a whole section on how not to fall. It doesn't mean you can't have stairs. For instance, you go to the store, you spend $1 sign, like $50, less than $100. You put a second banister, reduces your fall risk 56%. If you fall and break a hip, Your chances of dying in the first 12 months is 24%. Your chance of dying in the next year is 40%. And your chances of ever walking normally again is less than 20%, right? So things that stop you from falling are important. Hand grip. So people don't realize, actually, you can go, those towel bars that everyone grabs onto, like, and you think to yourself, oh no, those are just screwed on with a bit of hope and baling wire, right?
Yeah.
No, you can buy beautiful ones now. Yeah, they cost a little bit more than your super cheap towel wrap, but they look really nice now. So that's maybe still a single one. If you're thinking about where you invest, okay, so bathrooms, like maybe you need to take out the tub. That's probably going to get a $2 sign, but it's not a $3 sign. So find where are the things that are expensive, where are the cost benefit analysis, and I map that out for you in the book.
You are constantly toggling between the logic and the emotion of all of these conversations with my mom. Her logical brain was like, yep, step in, shower. And then I get a call from the plumber who's like, she doesn't want to remove the tub. And I call my mom and I'm like, what's the deal? We're getting a step in shower. And she said, I don't want to hurt the house. It's going to hurt the house to take that tub that has been there since the 1930s. And she was genuine, authentically upset about them having to, because the plumber described, he's like, I'm going to chainsaw out that tub. How do you step forward through the logic and address those intangible needs that our aging parents may well feel so strongly?
Absolutely. So part of what I do in the book is start conversations about what's important and sideways conversations. Things like, hey, mom, I'm going to downsize too, but I just can't live without a bathtub. Like I just can't. These new places, I just can't live without a bathtub. But I found that there's a sauna downstairs and I kind of think it's going to be okay, right? Those kinds of ways in. If she really wants a bathtub, guess what? There's new bathtubs that drain in 15 seconds that have a door. And so many people will think about fixtures that are old and, have this old idea of it. You know what? You may want to keep that beautiful bathtub as a lovely art piece.
Yes.
Right?
A planter in the backyard.
Right? Or you may just leave it in the bathroom because it looks really nice, but you're not going to go there anymore. You're actually not using that anymore. It's okay. You don't have to change everything. You just need to know what we talk about, activities of daily living. You got to find out how you're going to bathe yourself, toilet yourself, get in and out of bed, cook your food, keep your food cold or hot, and how you're going to get around in the house. It doesn't have to be the same way it used to be. And you can kind of abandon entire rooms if you need to.
There is almost no way to bring up cognitive decline in a way that doesn't hit some sort of funny bone for someone, because it gets at the heart of one's self-concept. Like, am I losing my marbles here?
Absolutely.
What advice do you have for having that particular conversation with a parent? And maybe well before they even show any signs, but if they're alive on this planet and they're 105 years old, their brain's not going to work the same as it did when they were 50.
Exactly. And actually, this is a series, just to let you know, the entire next book is called Let's Talk About Aging Parents with Dementia. So this is an entire deep book, but there's a whole chapter on dementia, and there's a whole chapter on things that also affect your cognition that aren't dementia. And I ask people to kind of go through that first. But here's a way in. Talk about an emergency. So for instance, were you ever in a car accident and got bonked on the head? Okay, that's a way in, right? Were you ever skiing and all of a sudden something happened to you or your kid or your grandkid? Come into the conversation talking with I statements, right? About yourself. And then ask about their friends. Oh, they'll have no problem spilling the tea about their friends, right? No problem, right? So come in from the sides. One of the things that we talk about, and it just makes my teeth ache, Bruce, is people say, oh, we end up parenting our parents. They become our adult. No, they're not. They're your parents, right? It doesn't matter. And you are 16 years old. Doesn't matter, right? And you were the kid that couldn't keep their keys. My parents still talk about the time I left, I'm going to date myself, my K-way in Banff. Like, that's an active conversation. I am 52 years old. They are 87 years old. We had that conversation the other day. I was like, okay, we understand that I am still that kid. And the last time I lived at my parents' house, I was 17. So we need to work with our relationships in who we are to each other. Ask their opinion. Talk about an emergency. Talk about a trip. What if we couldn't get a hold of you and you were on a trip?
What is, air quotes, fair for
Mhm.
the kids to ask the parents as it relates to money. And I know that you're going to have all sorts of caveats and whatever about that. But I ask because it, in very tangible ways, can fall
Mhm.
on that next generation to fill in the slack or contribute financially
Mhm.
if mom or dad's care is way outsized the assets that they have. So they've got vested interest here. How do
Mhm.
you approach that?
So one of the things in the book I do is I actually help you cost things out. I think it's really important. And many people have no idea, like it's not even in the ballpark. That's kind of how I am with cars. Like, I don't know, is car $5,000, $50,000 or
Oh, they're like
$500,000? Like,
$300. Yeah, you can buy a Tesla for like
exactly.
$300, I think.
So it's important to remember some people have no idea what things cost. And then some things are how long is a piece of string? It's a bit like saying, how much does a vacation cost? Well, it depends. Are you taking a private jet somewhere or are you
Yeah.
taking like a package tour? So we need to understand what's most important to them before we figure out what's costing. Okay. So if it's most important that they stay in their own home, which by the way, 95% of all seniors will do so, only 5% ever move into congregate care, then we have to figure out, okay, so what does it cost and what's their offsets, right? So if they want to have a full-time live-in caregiver, are they ready for the fact that it's about $200,000 to $300,000 a year to have a PSW live in the house with you? Probably not. A few times people have said yes, but mostly not. So, okay, so then what is it that they need help with? Okay, let's cost those things out a little bit. Do you need a gardener? What about being part of the home share program where you get a grad student move in, you give them a little bit of rent money, then all of a sudden someone's walking your dog and mowing your lawn, you're getting more money, you're living more safely, everyone feels better because there's someone in case mom and dad falls. So all of those things I go through in the book, because when it comes down to it, even long-term care isn't free. Now, if you're very low income, you don't have to pay it, but otherwise you're still paying several $1,000s a year in addition to other things. The last thing I'll say is this. Many people are quite surprised to find out that actually there are laws in most of the jurisdictions in this country and other countries too, which is called filial obligation laws. You can actually be legally required to pay for your parents. The good news is this, is that it's almost never used. And if it is used, it's used in the case where you have a multimillionaire adult child and like a destitute parent. But there can be legal requirements. So people need to know that.
I very rarely say this, Laura. I am saying every single person who has a parent that, let's call it aging, but I'm going to say 70 and up, just needs to buy your book. How's that? Should we just say that?
I think it's good. A book's cheap, and get it from the library too, right?
Do you think you get a second copy and hand it to the parent too?
So here's what I'm finding. People are saying things like, I had to look at your book. I ordered 6 copies. I said, oh, is it a book club? They're like, no. I've given it to all of the people in the family. I'm like, did you give one to the parents? There's like, sometimes yes, sometimes no on that one. Because there's tricks of the trade in there too. But what people are saying is, you know what? I don't want to have to download the information about what a meds review is or how to cost a banister. I am calling up my brother and saying, look at chapter 3. We got to do that.
Yes. That's the short form. And if it doesn't make sense to you, just call Laura directly.
Just call Laura directly.
Laura, thank you for your time. And it really is a big contribution that you have brought together all of your wisdom and experience in such a practical and compassionate way. We appreciate it.
I'm really grateful that you are bringing it forward because it is one of the biggest financial decisions both you have and your parents have.
100%. Laura Tamblyn Watts, CEO of CanAge. Her book is called Let's Talk About Aging Parents.